So a couple of months ago we tackled the very first Yakuza in the series with Yakuza 0, which turned out to be the hardest grind we have ever done for the channel. However, now it is time to continue the series, and instead of going with Yakuza Kiwami, we are instead going to be playing for every achievement in this game, we are going to have to complete the main story, an absolute plethora of side missions and objectives, including reaching the maximum level with not only Ichiban, but the entire team alongside him. And it's also worth saying that Yakuza Like a Dragon has a single achievement that is so notorious for absolutely destroying people's progress on achievements and trophies in this game, and that is an achievement that we also need. So folks, considering this is going to be a long one already, let's not waste any time and get straight into getting every single achievement in Yakuza Like a Dragon. Welcome to the Achievement Grind. The game begins with Arakawa going out for Peking duck with his dear old dad. Wait, did I say dear old dad? I meant dead old dad, as after a quick toilet break we return to one less parent. Cut to the New Year's of 2000, Arakawa is now the patriarch of his own family, and we immediately meet our new hero for the first time, Ichiban Kasuga. Ichiban works on behalf of Arakawa and spends his morning completing small jobs. This, as you would imagine, involves beating a lot of people up, but that's something you come to expect from these games. Now, for the first time in Yakuza, the combat is now turn-based, and I was really curious to see how this plays out compared to the previous games. So far though, it's not bad at all. We won't get the true full experience though until we get a full party later on. Soon night hits and we have our most important task, to bodyguard and protect the young master, Arakawa's son. He was paralysed from an accident at youth, so we must now protect and escort him however the young master sees fit. For tonight, he wants to visit his crush who works in a local cabaret. However, for her birthday, he doesn't want to roll in on a wheelchair, as apparently that would embarrass her. Instead, he injects himself with an unknown cocktail that temporarily grants him the ability to walk. So with that, we stroll in and have a lovely night. Well, for the most part. After the presents are given, we see that the girl actually is terrified of the young master and only wants to keep the peace. Unfortunately, the young master overhears said conversation and leaves on his own for the night. Returning to Arakawa, we then get a bit of backstory. Firstly, we see how the young master lost his ability to walk. It turns out that Arakawa's wife was being chased by a rival Yakuza family, and not wanting to risk her newborn son's life, she made the impossible decision of putting him inside a subway locker. Arakawa finds the locker and breaks him out barefisted, but the damage is done, as the low temperature has caused a lot of problems for the young master, resulting in his condition. The other flashback we see is Ichiban becoming a part of the family. When in trouble, Ichiban uses Arakawa's name to get out of a tough situation. Not only did Arakawa surprisingly show up, but he then gave a finger to spare the young lad from a horrible fate. Ever since then, Ichiban's loyalty has always been to his patriarch. However, there's been a problem. His second-in-command Sawashiro has killed somebody, but he cannot take the fall for it, as it would tear the family apart. Arakawa asks the impossible of Ichiban, and asks to go to prison on his behalf, to save the family. Because of what Ichiban owes, he accepts the prison time with a smile on his face. He is sentenced to 15 years, and we unlock the first achievement for the family. And I mean, who wouldn't volunteer to prison? Look at the amazing bread you get. Oh, perfection. After a fight, however, Ichiban's sentence is increased by 4 years, and we see him next on the day of his release 19 years later. He steps into freedom expecting to see Arakawa greeting him with open arms, but no such luck, I'm afraid. There is a face waiting for us though. We don't know him, but he certainly knows us. Makes sense, as apparently he is a policeman officer. This is Adachi, and he wants something, but who cares? We've been in prison for nearly 2 decades, and if that doesn't deserve a well-needed haircut, then I don't know what will. Although it's a shame for Ichiban again, as the hairdresser totally botches the job. However, we now have the man that we know and will come to love. Adachi really puts it into perspective for us, but again, who cares, as we have jobs to do, and the next is to clean the gravestone of the man that Ichiban pretended to kill. Adachi joins us and questions our every moment. However, before we can get into it, we spot him, Arakawa, as he visits another grave. When shouting to the boss only results in him walking away from us, we decide to drive back with Adachi, who clues us in on the last 2 decades. Apparently, a couple of years ago, Arakawa became acting captain to the Omi Alliance, betraying the Tojo clan, but it might not have been his fault. The governor of Tokyo started to crack down on crime and eventually disrupted every Yakuza clan except for one, Arakawa's. The only reason for him to have been left alone is that Arakawa will have been feeding information to the police in exchange to be left alone. Adachi then says that the Tojo clan is pretty much evaporated at this point. Ichiban doesn't believe a word and goes back to see the boss again. Spending the day getting intel, nothing looks good until Meanwhile, Adachi returns yet again with the location. They decide to storm the building together as Adachi is here to get information on his police commissioner, who Adachi is certain is dirty. With a mutual understanding, we team up and have our very first new party member. It goes well to begin with until the police interrupt the conquest. Adachi stays behind to stall them whilst Ichiban goes to confront the boss, even meeting and beating Sawashiro, who doesn't even say thank you for 20 years in the slammer, the goit. The lovely reunion is at hand though, as Ichiban and Arakawa finally come face to face. And Adachi may have been right, as Arakawa is wearing an Omi Alliance captain's pin, but that's the worst thing that can happen here, surely.
すまねえな、イチ。死んでくれ。
Alright, maybe not. With that shocking bullet, chapter 2 ends and we also unlock rock bottom. We wake up in a bin. Yep, not the sentence I was expecting to say, but here we are. Somehow we survived our bullet and now find ourselves in a homeless camp. There we meet Nanba, a fellow homeless gen, and apparently the one we owe our life to, as he saved us from death being a former nurse. Since Ichiban has just been betrayed in ways that I don't think I could even fathom, he decides to stick around a bit, not really knowing where to go next. Over the next hour, we grow closer to our saviour, who then teaches us the way of homelessness, from collecting spare change that's fallen underneath vending machines to even introducing us to our first sub-story. This is a ratherly convenient named Kan-san, and his minigame involves us driving around the local area fighting other homeless people for cans to sell in an adrenaline-pumping race. Honestly, this minigame was so much fun. Totally unexpected, but with this I truly felt like I was back in Yakuza. The game is simple enough though, even with the harder difficulties, so we quickly win and continue. Problems have arrived though, as the Chinese mafia enter the camp. One of the three factions in control of this district have arrived to collect protection money. Ichiban obviously not having any hides in a box, and one of my favourite cutscenes begins to play out. I think that's the best headbutt I've ever seen. Anyway, we beat them all up as you would expect, and afterwards Nanba explains who's in control of the territory. The three players in the area are the Chinese Mafia, who we have just met. There is a small clan of the Yakuza here, and also the Korean Mafia as well. These gangs together are known as the Injin 3. Even with the gangs somewhat civil with each other, it may not take much for a war to break out between the three. Whilst having this talk though, Ichiban finds something, a 10,000 yen note in his pocket, although it is quickly found out to be a very elaborate counterfeit. What's even more odd is that somebody placed it there after he got shot, so Ichiban holds onto it for now. It's time to move on from the homeless camp though folks, with Nanba by our side. But my top priority was playing more of the can collection game. Now of course this game is setting up the characters and the plot, but it felt great to be out of the story for a little bit. And here we accidentally picked up our next achievement. With the can collection minigames there are 3 difficulty levels. We just simply need to beat each of them once. Easily done, and with the final completion we unlock Can Quest Hero. Our first job though is, well, to find our first job. Finding one through an agency doesn't really go well, until a man offers us protection work, which we gladly accept. We meet the bar owner and regular, and she clues us in on why we might have to defend this place, since the owners have annoyed the Korean Mafia by cutting a cable that they were using to steal electricity. On command, somebody comes in on behalf of the Korean Mafia ready to tear things up, but the only thing that gets tore up is his pride when we go outside and feed him his own elbows, before he runs away protected by the enemy. The patron thanks us for our help and even gives us a place to stay for a price. Within her brothel, disguised as a restaurant, is a spare room. We can have that spare room if we protect the owner and the girls from Bleach Japan, a protest group hell-bent on cleaning up Japan one brothel and bathhouse at a time. Finally, with a residence, we clean out of the camp and set up shop in our new home. The chapter ends with Nanba and Ichiban really sharing a lovely moment about wanting to be a hero. When it ends, we unlock heroes and villains. It appears that we're not alone though, as Adachi has made his way back into our lives, something that I'm very grateful for. Adachi's stunt with the police didn't go down well, and he was fired only months before retirement, so he joins our ranks again, hopeful to still take down the commissioner. So for now it's back to seeking jobs really, and we strike lucky. There is a local bathhouse in need of security, so keen we head down to meet the boss. On the way though, we get jumped by a bin man. When we put him down, we meet a new friend. This is Sujimon, and he tells us of an app that he has created that catalogues our encounters and documents the insanity of the people we face, which which kind of reminds me of something. But that's not important, as collecting different enemy information is actually something that we need for a couple of achievements later down the line. During this quest, we also reach level 10 with Ichiban, unlocking us a different achievement with Awakening Dragon. Back to work, meeting the boss of the soapland Nonomiya, we quickly see that he is in fact a creep. We don't have time to dwell on that though, as Bleach Japan have arrived yet again to give us some grief, but are sent packing for the third time. It's quickly revealed, however, that the manager isn't actually a creep. It's just a front, and he actually really cares about the women who work for him. In fact, his first official job for us is checking on his top girl, as it were, as she keeps cancelling to come in and something's clearly wrong. We find out quickly that she's being blackmailed by a residential care home who is in charge of her father, and is making her pay through the nose for treatments even though she's not allowed to see him. But this is the first chance we actually get to explore the new city we find ourselves in, and slowly we're introduced to the new mechanics and the features, one of them being Vocation School, where we can take tests that increase Ichiban's personality traits, all of which we need to max out at the end of the game for another couple of achievements as well, but more on that later. The next thing we do is tackle a sub-story involving pound mates. Now, Adachi thinks that by ringing a number he will have access to a beautiful woman. Not the case, as pound mates turns out to be in fact an app where you can call people in to help you fight, as this rather muscly man demonstrates for us. Throughout the game we will also get more access to pound mates by completing missions and sub-stories and such. So again, something we'll be working on throughout the game, as they can get pretty damn intense. Anyway, back to the campaign. Knowing that the care home is up to something, the team get a job within to scope it out, and it's quickly confirmed that something terrifying is happening here. However, they can't do anything right now as they need a plan. The current plan is to go get sloshed at the Survive Bar. This bar acts like the hub for Ichiban and his party, where they can drink, bond and rest. But here bonding is the most important, as eventually we will be able to have one-on-ones with all of our party, and there is an achievement for maxing out everybody's bond with Ichiban. Again, another thing we'll be doing throughout. But here we have our first session with Adachi. That's all they needed for a plan though, as the next day they set to break into the Excellence area, where the dodgy business is happening. After some clever sleight of hand, we find our way in there and see how messed up it really is. Turns out that this area of the hospital is where they kill their residents before extorting their families for every penny that they can get. And yes, it's ran by a small branch of the Yakuza, that we quickly introduce our fists to. Deciding that the patriarch of this clan needs to know what's going on, we beat our way through an army of the Yakuza just to tell him that. And it was not in vain. The Yakuza members in charge are banished, the hospital is shut down, and everybody's money's returned. A pretty decent outcome to me. But that's not all. During this meeting, the patriarch also sees the fake yen note. Now, he clearly knows what it is, but remains silent for now. Before we go home to tell the Soapland boss it's all over, we decide to take in some more of the amazing sights of the city. Now, one of the weird and amazing minigames of Yakuza 7 is the cinema. The goal is to stay awake during the entire film, and it's actually quite fun. We then complete a couple more sub-stories before heading back. Bursting through the door to tell Nonomiya the good news is when we see it. The man has been lynched. The screen cuts to black, and we unlock Soap on a Rope. The next scene shows the gang at Nonomiya's funeral, where we seem to be approached by the woman we helped at the care home. Only it's not her, it's her twin sister, Saiko. She was estranged from the family, but on the phone overheard Nonomiya's office get invaded. Nonomiya had called Saiko to tell her about her sister's situation. Apparently the attackers were speaking Chinese, and kept repeating the name Lao Ma, who is a local crime lord. Wanting to take down Nonomiya's killers together, we finally have a full party as Seiko joins our efforts. After bonding more in a rather intense karaoke session, we're back on the streets looking for clues on where to go. Also meeting a new friend, Sumari. She essentially becomes the unofficial blacksmith of the group, and here we can upgrade our weapons and armor. She also has a couple of achievements tied to her as well, but we'll get to them later. Before we get back to the story, it's time for a change of pace, as we soon unlock Ichiban's job. We decide to help a friend with rebranding their company, and soon we become the president. Time to be the #1 business in Japan, starting from a single confection stall, but eventually leading us to billions of yen's worth of trade and revenue. We get used to the mechanics of hiring people and investing, but we'll come back to this soon properly. First, we have a couple of achievements to go through, and the next is sub-story related. But in doing so, we also meet the best character in any Yakuza game ever, Nancy-chan. The story shows us saving a homeless man's pet crawfish, only to realise that he plans to eat it. Now, we can't be having that, so we simply trade Nancy-chan's life for a bento box. The best choice ever as we walk away with Nancy on our shoulder, and we unlock the most incredible pound mate you have ever seen. I mean, look at her animation, for goodness sake. But that was also our 10th sub-story complete in total, so we unlock stories to tell. Oh, and you may see some changes in the future thanks to this perfect crawfish, but you'll see eventually. The next achievement happened during our next fight. Now, scraps can happen all over the place, and they happen a lot, so it was only a matter of time before we were fighting in front of cars. It doesn't bother me though, as soon one of the knocked out goons gets ran over, and with that we unlock Fight on the Sidewalk. Back to the story. Over the last couple of hours we've been piecing together clues over where this Lao Ma might be, and we have tracked him to a Chinese factory where we've also gotten jobs, quickly finding out that the factory pays for its products with fake bills. Rather convenient. However, when we try to steal a note as proof to use, we get caught and things get complicated, as through no fault of our own, the scene ends up with us running away from an explosion. Honestly, it wasn't us. The chapter ends with us seeing Philip Schofield on a bench and we unlock Smoked. When we wake up, we are indeed on our uppers, as we have been captured and we wake up to see Lao Ma, or his actual name Mabushi. He admits to killing Nonomiya immediately in an attempt to make the 3 clans in the region start a war, also recording Ichiban to edit later, helping prove this lie. Mabuchi leaves as we're about to get executed, but the silver-haired fox from earlier sprints in to free us and save our lives. We take this gift in stride and beat our way back to freedom through the sewers. Now honestly, this sewer section is quite boring, as it is an hour of just running 10 steps into a fight, rinse and repeat. However, we do get our next achievement in here as well, as we occasionally can receive a reward from a safe once we open it. However, on this very turn we open the safe to reveal a lunatic who was just waiting in there for us, I guess. But that's irrelevant, as for finding one of the safe dwellers we unlock Treasure Displeasure, and there is nothing displeasurable about an achievement, so moving on. After this we have an entire hour more of fighting through the sewers that ends with a pretty intense fight with an excavator, and no, I'm not kidding at all, we pelted machinery to death. God, you gotta love Yakuza. When we eventually exit the sewers, we go to call the clan patriarch that we met earlier, only to find that somebody's been shot. We then see Mabuchi delivering the very bullets that they mean. Huh, so I guess guns do kill in this universe now. Good to know. That was the final straw, and regardless of Ichiban's warnings, the war has begun. That's not good enough though, as Ichiban and his crew race to stop the confrontation, hopefully getting to explain that everybody is being set up. It doesn't work until the leader of the Lu Mang arrives, Zhao. Now, Zhao tells Ichiban to go and get proof, as Mabuchi is his right-hand man. If he doesn't, he will kill the Yakuza leader and the war will begin proper. We agree and finish the chapter unlocking Ignition. It's time to leave the story for a bit, however, folks, as by completing Ichiban's job, we can now get 5 more achievements and enough money to do with whatever we want. So I thought this was the next best stage. Now, to explain the minigame, there isn't actually much to it. Most of the time, you're setting up people with their best jobs and you have to earn as much as you can to please the shareholders. There's more to it than that, but it's a decent summary. Besides that, there isn't really anything to talk about though, as the job is simple and repetitive. Now, it's not bad at all. I honestly had a lot of fun with perfecting teams and earning more and more month by month. But yeah, there isn't really anything here to note, besides the arrival of our next party member, Eri. Now, Eri is the person who made Ichiban president, and wanted to tag along being a hero as well, but unlike the rest of the group, he can only increase Eri's bond level by increasing our job. So that's something else we'll be doing here as well. So we got to work. At first, we had a single stand in the middle of nowhere, but hour after hour and meeting after meeting, I was understanding how things worked more, and we started to get new projects, workers, and more importantly, more money. It didn't take long for us to outgrow our current offices as well. Ichiban Holdings needed something flashier, a job that Eri and Tomei sorted out. Honestly, their choice is perfect, it really is, except for the fact that this place costs 10 billion yen. Yeah, they can sort that out later, but for now, we just unlock new digs. In fact, it didn't take us long to unlock our next achievement as well, as we got back to work and decided to celebrate by buying our 10th company in total. I mean, I didn't even know that was an achievement, but aggressive executive unlocked anyway. Hours started passing again until we were unbelievably close to becoming the best in Japan, beating some pretty intense competition on the way. In fact, we were a single shareholder meeting away from that very thing, so we buckled down and did our best. With our main rival attending the meeting, we don't hold back and within seconds have him on our side. The meeting was a success, and with that we become the best of the best and gain the achievement Presidential Power. The win also maxes out Ichiban and Eri's bond level, which results in another achievement, Friends from Work. One down, several more to go. And we only have the one achievement left before leaving Ichiban's job forever. We just need to exceed 10 billion yen capital. So we get back to work, perfecting our workflow even more until that sweet 10 bill was ours. And so was the final work achievement, Make That Money. Now, that was a good 5 hours of the same thing, so it was nice to get back into some of the meat and potatoes of the game. However, we still didn't really do much except unlock some more achievements, of course. It turns out that we were also waiting for one final cutscene to match out Adachi's bond level as well. So we race back, kanpai to good fortune, and unlock Friends on the Force. With millions of yen in our pockets thanks to the work, we could also get a couple of expensive achievements out of the way with. The next was the vocation school, where we have to improve Ichiban's personality, and there's an achievement for completing 10 out of the 21 available courses. Again, this was a lot of fun. Guess that makes me a bit of a nerd, but who cares? We complete the 10, unlock Certified Genius, which, yes, thank you, I am. To prove it, we completed the rest of the classes as well, since they gave incredible progress to the stats that we'd be grinding anyway. Another hilariously expensive task is that we have to fully upgrade the blacksmith's workshop. It costs over 20 sodding million yen to do this, but it is more than worth it for Sumire. No, sorry, I mean Romancing the Forge. Yeah, the achievement. Anyway, we wrap up our next achievement instantly by making 10 pieces of gear within this fine establishment. Again, we were so rich, so this was easily done for Romance of the 10 pieces. Now, one of my favourite aspects of the Yakuza franchise is the insane amount of minigames that you can play, and that is no different here. Now, there isn't a 100% for the game, thankfully, or it'd be 2 years long, but for simply playing 10 different minigames around, we unlocked Man About Town. One more achievement, folks, and we're back to the story, I promise. Now, a great feature of Like a Dragon is the fact that you can change your jobs to all sorts for your entire party. This is great because with every job change and level, your characters learn more skills that they can use in battle, and some of them are hilariously overpowered. So I started experimenting, and for winning our first fight, having changed all my party members' jobs from their original gives us career counselling. It's finally time to get the proof that Zhao asked for, and for it we must check into the Gomijul. Now, the process is tricky as we're not exactly welcomed, hence why people are monkeying around watching us making our way through. But we have a reason to celebrate as we find our next achievement in this building as well. We find a safe. Once opened, we collect our 100th piece of gear and unlock Gear Fanatic. Finally, we make our way inside the Gomijul, where we are then reunited with the silver-haired hero that saved our lives earlier. This is Jungi Han. He welcomes us and introduces us to his operation. Essentially, it's a gigantic Big Brother operation that they use to spy on the city with. From this, though, we have the proof we need, as they recorded Mabuchi going in for the kill. That's not all, however, as seconds later we're also shown the counterfeit bills being printed in real time. Interesting, but this soon reveals to be a trap, as Jungi and Seonghi want to question Ichiban on how he got his hands on the fake bill. We quickly explain ourselves and they buy it. However, it turns out that Nanba has been lying to us. Seonghi reveals that Nanba was looking into the entire counterfeit operation long before meeting Ichiban, as he was trying to find his lost brother, as he disappeared right before posting a story on said counterfeiting. With no leads, he gave up until Ichiban got shot and revealed his fake bill. Ichiban doesn't care in the slightest though, as he defends Nanba all the same, and even fights to make sure he can escape. But it's still not good news, as Nanba is now being hunted by assassins as he simply knows too much, so the team race to find him. A little while later, we find ourselves at the table of the Injin 3, and here we find out that each group have their paws in the counterfeiting scheme. The Chinese get the materials, the Korean print the fake notes, and the Japanese distribute them. The Patriarch also reveals that he knows where Ichiban got the fake bill, but will only reveal it if it brings Nanba to him. The cutscene ends as well as the chapter, unlocking us 3 spiders. Trying to think smart, the group realised that the perfect people to tell about this corruption would be Bleach Japan, and would you know, we're spot on. Inside we find Nanba, who appears to have already told everything to the leader of Bleach Japan, Kume. That's not all though, as it turns out that Bleach Japan has ties to the Yomi Alliance, which is also why Mabuchi's here as well. Yeah, it wouldn't be a Yakuza without hilariously complicated politics, but honestly, it kind of makes the games, so I promise I will try to explain as best as I can. After beating the stuffing out of those that needed it, Nanba and Bleach Japan leader escape, but we make one last revelation before we leave. The previous owner of Bleach Japan and now the governor of Tokyo is seen in a picture, known as Ryu Aoki, but Ichiban knows this gen as the young master. The chapter ends and we gain the statesman. The next day we see Bleach Japan get to work. Everything is out in the open and they are trying to break their ways into the Gomijul for proof. We rendezvous with Jungi and Seonghi and realise that there's only one thing we can do: burn it down. Whilst the building crumbles, we find Nanba at the end of his rope. No hope for him or his brother, as he knows the group will never take him back after all of this. Nanba though is a moron and doesn't realise that Ichiban is incapable of being nasty. Like seriously, he loves to love everybody. Jungi reveals that his brother is alive and well, and Nanba rallies with us once more. Perfection. Again, we complete the chapter and unlock our next achievement, Time to Talk. Things don't stay sweet forever though, as we realise that the Yomi Alliance has captured and intends on killing Zhao, so we need to once again beat up Mabuchi and save Zhao's life, which will be a lot easier now that Jungi has joined the party as well. Now, saving Zhao's life sounds fine, I guess. However, I'd much rather get some achievements, so here we decide to keep working on the same side tasks and we eventually get a bit more done. The first task is simply just to change Ichiban's job a total of 3 times. I'm actually surprised it took us this long to unlock Job Hopper, but on to the next. We also find this gen, who seems to be telling you lot to do something. Weird. Next is our third maximum bond level. Ichiban and Saiko have been getting on like a house on fire, so we have our final bonding cutscene and unlock friends like sisters, deciding to carry on with more sub-stories for poundmates and achievements alike. We actually unlocked our first of the Sujimon related achievements as we finally take down our 100th unique enemy in the game, and unlock the aptly named I Wanna Be the Very Best. Followed very quickly by completing our 20th sub-story in total, also giving us Story to Live, and the last achievement we unlocked before carrying on was to get Ichiban to level 30. Easily done and inevitable, giving us Rising Dragon. Time to save Zao, finally, poor guy, bet he's wondering where we've been. We walk into an audience with a lot of the Omi Alliance and begin to paste them appropriately, even joined once again by Nanba. Somehow though, Zao was saved, even though we didn't do anything yet, and we soon find the reason why as we bump into an old friend, Mitsu. This was our best friend who we knew before we went to prison, and he came back disobeying direct orders to save Zao, to warn us that something big is about to happen with Arakawa, and we need to be ready for the call. Confused and seeking answers, we return to the Patriarch, who clues us in on the fake bill. Now, a couple of reveals are laid out here, but a long story short, Arakawa gave Ichiban the fake bill to prove to this Patriarch that he is to be trusted by Arakawa and should be treated very well. In fact, Arakawa shot Ichiban with the very hope that he would survive and make it to exactly where he's found himself. Once revealed, we finish the chapter and unlock Illuminations. The next chapter starts with Zao joining our party as the last member, and it's time to talk to the young master. Through some very careful planning and luck, we managed to get close enough to be invited to a secret meeting with the man. Before we go to that meeting though, we of course have some more achievements to tackle first. The next happens during our next fight, as during we call in Poundmates 30 times in total, and unlock Pound It. Following that, we have more max bond level achievements to claim as well, that being Nanba's for friends in low places, and Jungi for friends with familiar faces. Now, another mechanic in Yakuza is sharing meals with your group, and for buying certain food, your party members will talk about how much it does or does not mean to them, but that's irrelevant. For doing it 20 times though, food for thought unlocks. The final achievement for now is another easy one. Earlier we unlocked an achievement for giving Ichiban 3 different jobs. Well, when we give him 7 different jobs in total, we also get life experiences. Time to meet the young master and to see what he has to say for himself. And surprisingly, he instantly lays it all out. Back on the new year of 2000, we knew that Arakawa's second in command shot a rival Yakuza member down. Well, it turns out it wasn't him either. The young master did it. After he got his heart crushed, he left and lost the abilities of his legs once more. When a Yakuza goon tried to bully him, he indeed found out. The young master then changed his name and faked his death so he could enter the political world as the governor of Tokyo. I think he did it just fine. He can now also walk, thanks to a lung transplant that he had done in the States. So yeah, he is doing well for himself. Before he leaves, the young master warns Ichiban never to approach him or his dad ever again though, but we'll see how that goes. For leaving the reunion, we finish the chapter and the Dragon's Stairs unlocks. The next day arrives and we find out the big thing that Mitsu warned us about. Arakawa has called for us and we go to meet him. When we arrive though, it appears that not everybody got the message as somebody begins to try to stop us. No? That's right, it's Majima, the mad dog has doth returned, and it takes great pleasure in saying that even though he was certainly a tricky fight, we put him and Saejima down. Definitely the hardest fight yet, however we have arrived at the meeting and the plan is laid out before us. Arakawa immediately admits that he did indeed leak the information to the police in order to get the heat off the clan. This is because the governor of Tokyo is getting far too powerful, as if this continues he will have the entire Yakuza in his back pocket, and Yakuza being government slaves isn't really on the table, so their plan is to dissolve the entire clan. Gone, reduced to atoms. When it's time to make this announcement to the Yakuza, we have to form a wall to protect our leaders. However, when a massive brawl breaks out, a Yakuza looks like he might have the perfect chance to murder. Kiryu-chan! Why the hell did I do that? But Kiryu is back, who would have guessed it? With that, the fighting stops and the Omi and Tojo clan are completely dissolved. Arakawa thanks Ichiban for his trust and friendship before they share a moment on the docks. Finally at peace, the two part ways for now, although it's revealed the same night that Arakawa's body was found floating in the ocean, completing chapter 12 and unlocking us end of an era. The morning cuts to Ichiban rushing to see the body, his worst fears being confirmed. Rip Bozo. Anyway, we've got some more achievements before we talk stuck back in. The first is for raising one of Ichiban's character traits to max. For us, the first we got was 10 intellect, because of course, which unlocked a sound character. And only a fraction of a second later, we reached max bond level with Zhao, the final that we needed in the game, unlocking us also friends in the gang. The new plan is for Ichiban to run for governor. Now, we know that he won't actually win, but by doing this, he can get closer to Kume, who now runs Bleach Japan properly, and for lack of a better word, is a total wank. For now, we have another reunion with Sawashiro, and after giving him a pretty deserved beating for being a smeghead, he then reveals some more juicy gossip. It turns out that many years ago, him and his girlfriend at the time had a baby that neither of them wanted, so they put him in a locker and outright abandoned him, only to feel bad and return to him a little while later to see Arakawa breaking the child out of the locker, as we saw, meaning that the young master was in fact Sawashiro's son and not Arakawa's. We then see that the staff opened up the locker next to it, and inside we see another child. That child was Ichiban. Sawashiro, knowing his future is over, he gives himself up, and we find out that he has just killed the Seiryu clan patriarch. We move along unlocking fates of our fathers. The next day we go and beat some information out of some Yakuza members about the young master, but we get carried away. Everything is getting to Ichiban, and it takes a familiar face to stop him before he kills. Kiryu, of course. Kiryu returns to say to Ichiban that he knows the information that he wants, but will not give it to Ichiban unless he gets his head straight. The test? A scrap, of course. Now, admittedly, Kiryu beat the ever-loving stuffing out of us. Like, Jesus, he hits hard. So we realised we were a bit underleveled, so let's go grind some ranks and achievements before we go back. Now, at the beginning of the game, we unlock something called Part-Time Hero, which allows us to help strangers around Japan with quests and tasks. Every completion raises our rank, and hitting the first milestone with Senior Hero, we unlock a new legend, quickly followed by 2 more achievements. The next was for collecting our 200th piece of gear total, something you'll achieve through the game naturally for Gear Hoarder, then followed by fighting 200 unique people within the game, unlocking the last Sujimon related achievement, gotta catch 'em all. Yeah, real subtle Yakuza, real subtle. Now, a couple of chapters ago, we unlocked the Sotenbori Battle Arena, where we have to go through waves and waves of difficult enemies, making our way further throughout. I thought that this would be the perfect grinding part, so we get to work. We do incredibly well as we soon complete the entire arena, and as you would imagine, Heir to the Legend also unlocks. Seeing that from this we were level 49, we decided to grind one more level, as well as when we hit 50 with Ichiban, we also unlock Like a Dragon. With a decent level, we decide to retry Kiryu. This time we found his weaknesses and proceeded to beat the Dragon of Dojima into the floor. When we do, an amazing cutscene plays of Ichiban realizing that he's meant to be the hero and revenge has no place here. Honestly, this cutscene goes hard. Oh, and speaking of going hard, wait, no, I forgot to mention that earlier we unlocked Majima as a pound mate, and his animation is the best thing in this game. Like, if I had to show a cutscene to convince somebody to play the Yakuza franchise, it would be this one. Like, come the hell on. That was great. Once we come to from the fight, we become the hero we once was. And with a clear head, Kiryu reveals that Sawashiro is going to be killed in prison by the young master as he's a loose end that needs tying up. But when we go to confront them, we find the assassin and culprit together. The assassin is a hired goon only known as Mirrorface, and he is one of the most deadly in Japan, as he has the ability to resemble anybody, hence why he currently looks like a Dachi right now. As you would come to expect though, we beat them, and it's revealed that the young master did indeed send this gent to go kill Arakawa, but Tendo got there first, with Tendo being another Omi Alliance captain. He decided to betray Arakawa knowing that the young master would give him power and infamy. So great, another git we've got to take down, sure. Completing this also unlocks us the Torture's Past. And folks, we are on the final chapter now. However, before we delve in properly, I know what we was about to get into, so I decided to go and grind some levels first before we got back to it. And we had just unlocked the perfect place. As in the final chapter, we unlock a very specific set of sewers that hold something extremely valuable inside, the Invested Vagabond. Now, this caveman looking foe doesn't seem to be much, but if you manage to kill him before he runs away from battle, you will get over 400,000 XP per fight, and in this one section alone, there are 4 different fights with one, so this is the absolute perfect place to grind levels. So we got to work and we unlocked a lot of achievements in the process. The first 3 were max job related. Along with your rank, you could level up your job rank as well to get access to new moves and abilities. In here, we got all 7 characters to their max job rank and unlocked 3 achievements, with Professional for raising 1 to max, Master of Trades for 3 jobs to max, and finally Jack of all trades for 7. Hilariously easy when fighting these. And in fact, leveling is so easy down here that we also got Ichiban to level 70. Of course, also unlocking us Ryuga Gotoku. Level 70 was perfect in my eyes, so it's time to storm the Millennium Tower and confront Tendo and the young master to end all of this. Now, the fight up I'm not going to talk about, as I'll explain how this works later for a reason you'll understand. So let's skip straight to the top, where we start by fighting Tendo. Now, as an ex-boxer, he hits unbearably hard, but we eventually use the power of friendship to come out on top. However, when the young master arrives, it appears that we've been trapped, as the entire party is knocked out and Tendo is there ready to finish the job. All he needs is the young master's orders, to which he gives. Very easily and very graphically detailed. But this in fact was the trap. As soon as he gives the order, the team jump up, revealing they recorded the entire thing to end his reign. In fact, Tendo wasn't Tendo, it was the assassin Mirrorface who decided to help us because of the way that the young master treated him, saying that he was totally expendable. The young master does not take it lying down though, and after a convincing fist from us to really spell it out that it's over, the police arrive and he takes a hostage, getting the upper hand once again and escaping, returning to where it all started for both him and Ichiban. They have a heart-to-heart and the young master is ready to end it all rather than rot in prison. And one of the absolute most heartbreaking scene in this game's plays, as Ichiban forgives it all and begs the young master with every fibre of his being to do the right thing. It takes forever to convince him to lower the gun, but it was in vain, as Kume comes in and stabs the young master. Kume was the most loyal of anybody, but his betrayal cost him his life, as Kume's final words to him are, "I'm cleaning up the streets." Honest to God, this ending chapter is a masterpiece, but it ends with the young master dying in Ichiban's arms. And folks, that's like a dragon. The after credit scene show Adachi getting his wish and taking down his corrupt commissioner, and the final scene shows Ichiban thinking of the young master's last words surrounded by his new friends. For beating the entire campaign, we unlocked thank you, and honestly, no Sega, thank you. Honestly folks, this is only the second Yakuza game that I've ever played, and it already is becoming one of my favourite franchises of all time. But we are still not done with this grind at all. We have all of the side missions and objectives, and still have even yet to talk about the hardest achievement in the game. But we're still a little bit away from that yet. So let's very quickly go through everything that we did so we can get right back to the meat and potatoes. The first thing was the final sub-story achievement. Now, it's not for completing them all, only 40. Odd, but I'm not complaining. So we get to work and do just that, eventually unlocking Stories of the Streets. Now, remember earlier when I mentioned the cinema minigame where we have to stay awake throughout the film? Well, this next achievement has us complete every film, and it was a lot of fun to go through, surprisingly. Only took an hour, if that, to be honest, for Sleep Sheep Slapper also unlocking. The next achievement is a weird one. Apparently throughout the world you can find NPCs that will give you a honk honk. No idea what that possibly means, but we need a honk honk from everybody that we can. I ended up using a guide for this as the spawns are insanely rare, but we didn't let up, and we did not stop getting honked until finally we were on the final one. We approached, she honked us, and we unlocked Honk Honk Hero. That is the weirdest thing I've ever said for this channel. Next was another tricky one though, to raise Ichiban's personality to max in every way, and this seemed extraordinarily grindy, until I read something called the Sotenburi Marathon, which has you run from one end to the other collecting every briefcase on the level. When you leave and return, they will all replenish, and sometimes in these briefcases there are magazines that will give you a ton of XP. So we repeated this run for over 4 hours non-stop. It was long and incredibly grindy, but it was still the best way to do it. So we pulled through and eventually maxed every single one, unlocking Superhuman. Playing with fire is next, and that is for getting into intimate relationships with over 2 women. All this makes you do is gift some of the NPCs in the game flowers until they jump your bones. Do this twice and the achievement is ours. We chose the bartender at Survive, and of course we chose Sumeri as well, because of course I did. With that done, we popped Playing with Fire. Not many left to go now, folks. The next involved a new minigame, Mario Kart. I mean Dragon Kart. You can imagine what it is. Levels upon levels of racing minigames where we simply have to win. And honestly, winning in this is rather easy, so it doesn't take too much time at all. There is a cool cameo from this one though, as the final race is against somebody that we may know.
Dragon Fighter?
It was amazing to see him again, however we leave him in the dust like all the rest, and once done unlock Pop the Cork. The final achievement for now is once again raising Ichiban's part-time hero rank, so we did a couple more hours of fetch quests, fighting and everything in between, until we reached that glorious executive hero rank, and with it a new hero unlocks as well. Folks, the pain is upon us, as the final achievement has to do with the final Millennium Tower. Now in the last mission of the game I mentioned we had to fight up a skyscraper dealing with goons every step of the way. Well, it's time to do that, except the enemies will be horrendously powerful. With several mini-bosses along the way, this is a true test of teamwork and skill. So we began and very slowly started to fight our way up further and further. The fights were hilariously intense, but we scraped by every time. And once we fought past Sejima, Majima, Kiryu and Tendo, we then reached the main boss, Amon. The bastard has returned, so it's time to put him down here and now. It is an insanely tough battle, but we eventually come out victorious. It costs us a lot, but when we defeat him, we unlock the next achievement, Fulfiller of Dreams. But some of you eagle-eyed viewers will see that this isn't the last achievement. Well, it turns out that this tower was also another test. Kiryu set it up to show our strength to Mr. Amon, and having defeated this, we then unlock the true final Millennium Tower. And this is the achievement that has destroyed so many 100% and platinums. The premise is the exact same thing as we've done. It is the same tower through and through with the exact same amount of fights and bosses, except every single person is max leveled and hits like an absolute truck. Every single character has the potential to one-hit anybody in your party, and I cannot stress enough how difficult this tower is. Every single enemy is unbearable. Folks, I don't want to complain, but my god, this tower is absolute torture. Everything is stacked up against you, and even with a team of max leveled warriors, you will give every fiber of your being to get through this one. It's one of, if not the hardest thing I have ever had to do for the channel. So I did so much research on everybody's weaknesses, the best way to run through the complex, are the fights you can skip. We did every single thing that we could possibly do to get to the final room. Now, honestly folks, there isn't really much for me to talk about here. It is the exact same as before, but death is pretty much a potential on every hit you take. With grinding, research and practice, it took us over 20 hours alone to get through this. But eventually we reached the final fight with Amon. Somehow we come out victorious, as we unlock the victory of the Millennium and the final achievement, the new dragon. Folks, I cannot stress how happy I was that this was over. Don't get me wrong, it was very bittersweet as I absolutely loved this game. But that means we can now move on to Infinite Wealth, as I have been so excited to play that. So yeah, let's move on, as for now, the grind is over. Folks, I think it goes without saying, but Like a Dragon is an absolute masterpiece. It really is. One of the only bad parts in my eyes about this entire game was the challenge of the true final tower, because it just asks for too much. It is such an insane difficulty tweak that you will have to spend hours grinding and farming your party to the best that they can be, and other than the tower, there's no real need to do that, so it felt like such a slog. However, every other part was more or less perfect. The story was great in my eyes, the idea of having a team and meeting more incredible characters is amazing. The soundtrack, the minigames, the pacing, the city, literally everything. I adored this game so much, and I would beg anybody to give it a try. I really would. The only thing that I would do different, or I didn't care for, was moving through the story and having to abandon Nanba, Saiko, and Adachi. Some of the new members are introduced so late into the game that honestly you don't care about them anywhere near as much as you do as the first three. And it was really jarring seeing a cutscene end with Adachi only to have him vanish to a different character. But it is a small complaint. The rest, yeah, perfect. So let's get to the stats. For Yakuza Like a Dragon, it took us 68 hours to grind all 63 achievements that this game has to offer. My rating for this game is going to be an absolutely incredibly well-deserved 9 out of 10. Ironically, the exact same score that I gave Yakuza 0. So this series is absolutely something special. And as I said, this game is a masterpiece. Besides the couple of things that I've already mentioned about the side characters and the true final Millennium Tower. Ugh. And I feel like this game was so shy of that 10 out of 10. However, I do have to be honest, I can see another game doing it all better. So hopefully that is what we'll be finding out soon. And as you may imagine, the hardest achievement in this entire game is the true final Millennium Tower, because it is just ludicrously difficult. An insane difficulty spike that you have to grind for hours to be able to start. It really isn't worth it. It really slugs a lot of the game down. So yeah, that achievement, sod it. Folks, that is it it from me today. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Remember to like and subscribe as we have many more Yakuza videos coming. However, they will take a bit to make as each one is an insane grind in itself. But we do have some incredible grinds coming out soon, so I do hope you stick around. And if I can convince you to do that, maybe I can convince you to swing by the Twitch as well, where we go for the achievement grinds live. It would be lovely to have you watching my suffering, because I do that a lot. It's part of the parcel, but it's fun either way, so I hope to see you there. And lastly, thanks again to the amazing Patreon subscribers as well. You really help me do this, folks, so yeah, many thanks. However, that is it. I have already taken up way too much of your time today, folks. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will hopefully see you all in the next achievement grind. So take care, everybody. Bye-bye for now.